What needs to be understood is that the United States is in a unique historical situation. And the kind of activity toward China that you see is mostly a consequence and a reflection of the problems of the United States at this point. There are some interests here in the United States who are very eager to have good economic relationship with China, to trade, to invest, to move capital back and forth. That is largely the view of big business in the United States. And of course, especially big business that is either already active in China or hopes to become active in China. That's why the visit of Mr. Cook from Apple is an example of that. So that is a group of interests in the United States that are very positive towards China. The real fear of the American business is that the Chinese market will be closed to them. They want to be able to produce in China, and even more, they want to be able to sell into the Chinese market, which is one of the fastest, largest growing markets in the world. And they are very aware that if that market closes to the United States, it may open to the Japanese, to the Europeans, and then the United States will become isolated and will lose competitively. This is worrisome to them, so they want good relations with China. So that's one side. However, at the same time, there are other forces in the United States that are pushing in the other direction. They want conflict with China. They want confrontation. They want a battle. The last century has been the century of the American empire, and it now sees that its role in the world economy, financially, export, import, all of it is being challenged above all by the People's Republic of China, but even more by BRICS that China has built with India and Brazil and Russia and South Africa, and now the many more countries that are joining. This is a challenge. So from 1980 to the present, have been a time in American capitalism where it has undergone two serious experiences. Number one, a vast growth in the gap between rich and poor. Every measure we have shows that. A shrinking number of people are very wealthy, like Mr. Cook or Elon Musk of Tesla. But for most Americans, I'm talking 70 to 80% of Americans, these have been times of poor jobs, poor income, poor opportunity for them and for their children. It's becoming harder and harder. You have to go to the college, but you can't pay for it. So you have to take on enormous personal debt to get a degree, which isn't all that valuable anymore anyway. It's very, very difficult. The second thing that has happened is that capitalism has had serious instability. We had a very bad inflation over the last 3 or 4 years. Before that, we had a cataclysmic unemployment coming out of the COVID pandemic. So we've had very serious oscillation up and down on top of a long-term growing inequality. The mass of the people want to know, why is this happening? What can be done to stop it? And they turn to the political leaders, Democrat and Republican, for answers. The answers that have happened The most successful answers: number one, waves of poor immigrants coming into the United States from Mexico and Latin America. Second explanation: China. China is why we are having our difficulties. Now, these answers are false. China didn't cause American businesses to leave the United States. That was a decision made by American businesses like Mr. Cook, because it's more profitable to go to China than it is to stay in the United States. Capitalism has always moved, but the control of our politics by big business means that the politician can never, ever blame the capitalism. Cannot do that. Cannot blame the big businesses. Well, who are they going to blame? China is a convenient scapegoat. So you have a political reason for conflict and confrontation. So you have the American Navy in the South China Sea, and you make lots of noise again about Taiwan. But these are symbolic acts. And there's lots of economic exchange with China, like Mr. Cook's visit. And he will continue to invest. Apple depends on China, so it will continue to be active there. That's the conflict in the United States between a political structure that needs to attack and criticize China with tariffs, with trade war, and all the rest, and an economic capitalist class that wants good relationship. That fight is going on right now. I can't tell you how that's going to come out, because that's an unresolved contradiction. It is ironic that what is beginning to emerge, and what may be an important for China development inside the United States, is a coming together of the big business community with a peace movement, with all of the forces in the United States that are terrified that the conflict with China can become a war or a nuclear war. And that might change the politics of the United States in ways we have not seen for a very, very long time. One thing I can assure you: change is going on inside the United States. You can see from my gray hair, I was born in the United States. I've lived here all my life. I see the most momentous changes economically, politically, ideologically going on now. I've never seen anything moving so fast. So I expect that perhaps you and I will have more than a few occasions to discuss this in the months and years ahead.